The Enclave, the last remnant of the American government that survived the Great War and the destruction of their headquarters over 150 years later, would end up in the ruins of Washington, D.C. In 2277, 100 years after the Great War, they would lose their headquarters again. The following year, 2278, suffering loss after loss, the Enclave would meet its end at Adams Air Force Base. Or so we are to think. In Fallout 3, we are to believe that the last remnant of the American government that survived the war and the 200 years after could be backed into a corner so easily. Realistically, the Enclave would have a contingency plan. I believe this to be Mount Weather. However, the exact nature of it isn't that important, rather just the fact that the Enclave in DC was merely a contingent of the larger Enclave. How could Raven Rock be the last remaining base of operations for the Enclave to use? Maybe there weren't plenty of expansive underground cities like Raven Rock, but surely there would be some smaller government bunkers like the Lost Hills and Hidden Valley bunkers that the Brotherhood came to use. Apart from Raven Rock, there really is no reason for the Enclave to be in DC. The city has no strategic advantage. In fact, it probably has less strategic advantage due to how much it was bombed, leaving most remaining technology in wreck and a much larger mutant population for the Enclave to tackle. It might provide some morale advantage to control the capital, but when the Enclave was in such disarray after the destruction of the oil rig, surely this would be far down on their list after survival. The one motivation for the Enclave in Fallout 3 is the activation of the Purifier to control the area, yet when the Enclave supposedly arrived at Raven Rock, Project Purity wouldn't have even been started. Strategically, the only thing useful to the Enclave in the capital region is Raven Rock, due to its manufacturing capabilities. Raven Rock has vast manufacturing capabilities, however, it can't produce humans. The oil rig had around 1,000 residents, and the Enclave had very little outposts, all of them understaffed. Once the rig was destroyed, the survivors rallied to Navarro, where they supposedly journeyed to Raven Rock, leaving Navarro fully staffed, which potentially means more people than before the rig's destruction. It seems unlikely that in 35 years the few survivors could recoup their numbers to what we see in Fallout 3. There's all the Enclave soldiers we encounter in-game, maybe not including any that respawn at a location, but through all the missions and all the outposts, then in Broken Steel at Adams Air Force Base, there is a considerable amount, especially considering the Brotherhood was supposedly preoccupying the majority of the Enclave forces there to allow you to sneak into Adams Air Force Base. Of course, we know that the Enclave does recruit outsiders now, however, it still doesn't explain how we almost never see any old Enclave members. Hell, the highest rank Enclave member in the game is only a colonel, and after that, the highest we know of is a lieutenant. There would have to be another Enclave headquarters with the higher ranking members. Colonel Autumn is most likely still one of the highest ranking members, but he has been deployed to the capital region with the younger soldiers while the more scarce leadership like any generals are still at Mount Weather. This might be why the Enclave only appeared when Project Purity started up again, as they were only using Raven Rock as a manufacturing facility, but when they saw an opportunity to gain control of the area, they sent in Autumn to lead an occupation force. The idea of an Enclave base apart from Raven Rock is also backed up by an artillery order in Broken Steel from Enclave High Command. We never encounter anyone higher ranking than Autumn, and apart from him, never anyone above Lieutenant. The Enclave military in Fallout 3 was an autocracy, with Autumn at the head. If Autumn was MIA, then complete power would follow the chain of command to the next highest ranking officer. If there's a high command, it most likely means there's a group of higher ranking members than Autumn, directing the Enclave together. In Fallout 4's Far Harbor expansion, there's a character called Grand Zealot Richter. If you talk to him, you can find out he was a soldier in the Enclave. But he establishes himself like this.
Lieutenant Brian Richter, Recon, Capital Region.
Why would he have to specify the Capital Region? The Enclave was supposedly only known to be active in California and the Capital Wasteland. Most people would have heard about such a force with the ability to call down fire from the sky. They would know the single place this force was present in. Stating the Capital Region specifically as your position indicates the existence of other potential regions. At the very least, we can assume that the Enclave in DC spread out more than we are aware of. We see the Enclave all over the Capital Wasteland setting up outposts and occupying pre-war facilities. In the Broken Steel add-on, we venture out of the main map in different directions to the satellite relay station and Adams Air Force Base. As I've outlined before, the Brotherhood only even knows of these installations because they tracked radio communications coming from these places. Adams Air Force Base is around the same distance from DC as the satellite relay station is, so what's the point of the relay station being there? It could be to communicate with forces further out of the city, which may be one of its purposes. But why would the Enclave personnel in the Capital Wasteland be receiving orders from the relay station that supposedly originated from Adams Air Force Base? It all comes down to deception. If Mount Weather was the origin of all the orders, then they transmitted them to Adams Air Force Base, then Adams transmitted it to the relay station, and so on and so on. If the enemy is tracking your comms, then they will see it coming from wherever it was last sent, not the actual origin. So if the Brotherhood starts tracking the Enclave's comms, then that should lead them to the relay station or somewhere even less important. If the Brotherhood believes that place to be the actual origin, then they may just destroy it instead of tracing the signal from that installation. It won't stop the enemy taking out the installations that they trace transmissions to, but that's just sacrificing a pawn to keep the king safe. In Broken Steel, the Brotherhood did get all the way to Adams Air Force Base from tracing signals, but they sent the Lone Wanderer in to destroy where they believed the signal to be originating from, that being the mobile base crawler. If in fact the mobile base crawler was just a relay for Mount Weather, the Brotherhood would have no idea, easing them into a sense of security believing they destroyed the headquarters of the Enclave.